Ben Standig joins us now to talk some Commanders
Benjamin.
and NFL. Last man standing. Substack. My friend, how are we doing today?
We're doing well. I was just thinking about, you're talking about the Wizards tanking. I was all for it. The last couple weeks have been rough. It feels like a dip to the finish line. But then you look at what happened with the Commanders. In the NFL, tanking is not really a realistic thing because it's just the nature of the sport and the physicality and all that. But in 2024, we were all already at the end of the 2023 season. We were all like, "Hey, I was at least just keep losing. Like, just get to the end," because we understood the quarterbacks were there. This year, it was like, wait, they have the quarterback. This stinks. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to see this.
Refresh. The Commanders wasn't trying to lose. The Wizards are trying to lose.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Listen, I went to this season expecting nothing. And when they first came in and set out the whole thing about how they were going to do things, try to reset, and you remember that they built the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I look at that team and I say, okay, then, if they're going to do something like that, whatever they do, I'm cool with it. They can't lose enough to make me mad.
Wow.
Right.
I mean, because they came in this thing saying, we're not trying to win.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep that pick, and we going to get people, and we hope to improve guys. If you look at that thing and you're not excited about Will Riley, something's wrong.
Okay.
That kid can play.
I hear you. Refresh my memory, Ben, about the season where they probably should have been tanking. There was a 2-point conversion in Miami.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. I was sitting right there.
What year was that?
Ryan Fitzpatrick was the quarterback for the Dolphins at the time.
Yeah, that was going into the 2020 season.
Okay.
Or the 2020 draft, I should say. That's when they took Chase Young. The number one pick was Joe Burrow. If they had lost one more get the Miami game,
that was
they would have had the number one pick. Yeah,
right. That was the Burrow draft with Chase Young, and it was a 2-pointer that either they tried or Miami tried that either failed. It was like a dumb play, and you're like, okay, this is tanking right here.
Yeah, that was the game after. I think it was the first game right after Jay Gruden had been fired. So they were 0-5, and that was their first win. So, obviously it's notable.
Miami went for the 2-point conversion, didn't they?
Yeah, I think it was Miami.
Miami went for it and didn't get it.
Miami went for it, and it was like a complete turd play that had no chance. And you're like, okay, I see what you're doing. Because had they just kicked the extra point, they would have gone to overtime, I believe. So,
yeah. I mean, to that end, the Giants, ahead of the 2024 draft and this year, well, this year probably maybe wouldn't have mattered, but like in 2024, like they won late in the season, and that led to that led to them falling outside of the top three to get either Williams, Daniels, or May, and that was the big one when the Washington was playing at the Giants, and the Republicans, Randy Bullock, the Giants kicker, made like a 50-something yarder to win the game. And
Randy Bullock.
Again, I think I know there are fans out there who can't stand to lose no matter what, but I think most people were kind of like, yay, Randy Bullock.
Yeah.
Good job.
Now, look, I mean, we say tanking does not happen in the NFL. Teams are starting to find some kind of creative edge ways around it. I mean, the Raiders arguably kind of tanked because they shut down Max Crosby. Crosby got very bitter about it. Mm-hmm. He was like, I can play. What are you doing? Margle, Margle. And then they end up losing out, and they get Mendoza, or they're going to get Mendoza. And then they try to trade Crosby, and then his medical comes up, and they have to go, whoops, sorry, we have to take him back. Mm-hmm. So how about that for a turn of events? Even though he was like pissed off, wanted to play, turns out his knee was not right.
Nah, his knee was right. That was a bunch of BS up there.
Oh, you do? Oh, really?
Bro, they found out they can go and get your boy from Cincinnati and didn't have to give up the picks. Yeah, that's all that was about.
But they could have figured that out well before the trade.
Well, once they made the trade, because
they got cold
Hendrickson
feet?
They wasn't going to release him at first. Once he got released, then they don't have to give up picks. So, of course they did. Man, the Ravens have that reputation.
When are they going to release actual MRIs and X-rays to us fans on NFL Plus on my app?
Never. No,
so I can look at the MRI myself as a fan and go, well, let me take a look at that.
You can't look at my medicals.
I want to look at the all 22s. I want to look at the MRIs.
You can look at the all 22s. You can't look at the medicals.
No, but for years they wouldn't let us look at the all 22s. And now it is absolutely.
They finally got to the point where they can let you see it and you still don't know what's happening for the most part.
That is true.
That is true, but there are some good ex-quarterbacks out there putting in the time and grinding through it. You ever watch O'Donnell, not O'Donnell, the quarterback school guy?
Is it JT O'Sullivan?
Yes, you ever watch his stuff?
See, those guys know.
Watched a full JT O'Sullivan breakdown.
No.
I get it.
Yeah.
Ben, have you?
I have. I haven't done it as frequently, but yeah, there's other ones.
You know why you haven't done it as frequently? Because each one is over an hour long. They are so in depth, and I've watched him, and he'll go through it. He'll scrub a single play 4 or 5 or 6 times, and he will say, "Yeah, I don't really know what Jordan Love is trying to do here. I kind of like it. What we used to say is on flat routes, you always want to lead to the outside landmark, but maybe they coach it differently." He includes, Ben, a ton of ambiguity, which I respect.
Yeah.
Because he's not just saying this throw sucked, he shouldn't have done this. He realizes he's not entirely certain.
Yeah.
I so appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, I think, look, obviously it's very interesting to get your hands on the all 22, and for the people who really dive into this, who've done it, even if you're not a former player or coach, you do it enough, just like anything, you get reps, you learn some things. But when they respond with such definitive answers as to, oh, this is stupid, that should have happened, what, you're like, how do you know? Like, I mean, there was a play last year. Well, actually, it was the play against the Green Bay, when I'm blanking on his name, the tight end for the Packers caught a long pass up the field, and it looked like Bobby Wagner was trailing, and we couldn't quite tell.
Yeah,
and it was one of the bad times. And I was curious about it, so I went and asked people about it, over the next few days, and I asked 3 or 4 different players, and then Dan Quinn was asked, or Joe Witt was asked. And I swear I got 3 or 4 different answers as to what actually happened. And
what's your responsibility? Were you in trail technique or not?
Depending on the person you ask, they tell you according to what they
makes
know.
Them look good.
No, what they know really, because you never notice on the quarterback coach or offensive coordinator go, "I'm gonna talk to the quarterback and see what he was seeing." So the quarterback drops back and sees something. You're on the side, or you up top, or whatever. You see something. You see totally different than what he sees. So if you go to him and you say, "What were you looking at?" "Well, I was going to go here, but I saw this guy coming to the fray, so I threw it the other direction." What could the coach really say? "Oh, well, I thought you should have went over here." Dude, you don't see the angle I see. So
that's right.
And that's why, when I remember distinctly running a return, and I got to the sideline, Harbaugh we had left return on. I'm like, "I know." He said, "But you never went left." I said, "I started left. Everybody jumped outside. I went straight up the football field. Scored a touchdown, coach." He said, "That's why I'll never bother you anymore."
So wait.
Because he didn't see what I saw.
Harbaugh actually asked you after a return for a touchdown, why did you not follow?
He said, "We had left on, but you never got to the left." I said, "Because everybody jumped outside." And he said, "That's why." He said, "That's why I don't bother you."
Was it at home or was it on the road?
It was against the Saints.
But where was it?
In New Orleans.
Okay.
Yeah.
But by the way, to that end, the other thing that is frustrating as a watcher of people breaking down the film is they are slowing it down to the as slow as possible, and you're having to Brian's having to make this decision in real time. I was just watching some video the other day of it was somebody in a batting cage and they had a really tight camera right behind the hitter, and it showed here's what a 95-mile-an-hour fastball looks like, here's what a slider looks like at the same speed. And you're you have to make that call instantaneously.
Yes, you do.
But we're all going, how did you miss that? You're like, oh.
Yeah.
So,
right.
yeah.
Imagine breaking down quarterback film, Ben, if there was a camera mounted inside the quarterback's helmet and you had to look through what he was seeing on a play.
Yeah.
Boy, that would be a hugely different thing, wouldn't it?
Zabe, don't give nobody no ideas.
Well, that's actually, I am kind of waiting for that.
That's the next thing they're going to try and do.
Sweet, yeah.
No, I actually am waiting for that because, when it became known that Jaden was using the virtual reality simulator, that's essentially what that is. He gets to sit there and, I remember, I think it was Cliff Kingsbury said, the first time he put it on, he, as the rush is coming toward him, he felt himself like taking steps backwards, because it felt that
It felt
real.
so
So yeah,
real,
I do
like
wonder.
you were like nervous, going, "Oh no, they're about to tackle me."
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Does Ben Standing have a mock draft, and when will it come out?
Yeah, I've had a few already, but it's been, obviously the information is pretty light these days, not just with Washington, but really everywhere. And it's a weird draft because at the top of the board, after you get past Mendoza to the Raiders, there's very little certainty with what's going to happen, what teams are going to do, which players will be there, which who's going to be available for Washington. So it makes it challenging. But I think the good news is that because of how Washington handled its offseason, obviously made some significant additions, but at least everywhere, sort of covered up some of their holes. So if they had to play tomorrow, so to speak, that, they have something. So they can kind of go in any direction, and I believe that. And I think there's players who will be there for them that they'll probably walk away saying this is pretty good. I think getting like Sonny Styles, the Ohio State linebacker, might be closer to the top of the list. I think the Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love is a fascinating one because it's just typically you don't take a running back that high, and it's not like they have a screaming need there, but they do have a big need for more playmaking on offense. So if they think he's interesting, do they make that move? So they're in pretty good shape. But Styles is sort of what I have now, but if you told me he went 4, I'd be like, sure.
So my the thing I know the running backs and just like you saying Styles, they don't do that. The inside linebackers that Zay was stating earlier, they don't draft those guys super high anymore. What is it about Styles that make people think, oh, now we can go back to picking people in the top 10?
Yeah, I think it speaks more to people don't seem to love the more premium position guys to the degree that you would want them to, like David Bailey or the Texas Tech edge rushers, like more that sleek guys you can imagine coming off the edge. Whereas like Reuben Bain, we've talked a lot about him. He's got the power inside and the short arms and all that. I think people like them, but they're not like, ooh, I got to take this guy. And so because of that, I think the players that are like viewed as this is what you want to see out of this position are oddly the guys at these non-premium positions, with Styles at linebacker, Caleb Downs at safety, Love at running back. None of those positions are typically coveted inside the top 10. Just when you look at it from a economics value, essentially, that they're just not. That's not where the league values players, where they spend their money. But yeah, I mean, I think in a draft where there's more uncertainty, taking the best player at a position, so to speak, trumps the position value, or at least that's the sense this time. That's why Love could go as high as top 4. Even though, again, especially if you're like a bad team. It's one thing if you're like a pretty good team just missing that one piece. It's another thing to be like, we stink, but we're going to add the running back here. Like that's kind of an odd move. That's why I thought the Raiders last year taking Genti at 6 was a bad choice, because they were just so far away that the running back is not going to make a difference. And obviously running backs unfortunately typically have a shorter shelf life than other positions. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think they could use Love here. I just don't, again, will they view it as a good value for them is the question.
Let me ask you this question. You've interviewed a lot of front office people. Have you ever asked them the question, what do you put more weight on, the film or the damn
game
Bikini Olympics?
Or
because see, film to me is way more valuable. Like when they tell me a guy, Reuben Bain, he got short arms, 1/8 of an inch shorter than what they like, 1/8 of an inch, which is absolutely nothing when you think about it. If he kicks people's ass on a consistent basis, I don't care about that if I'm watching it. And as soon as the measurements come out, people completely change their mind on people, which to me, if I ever hear a general manager say I care more about those things at the Bikini Olympics than the film, then I'm going to believe
the underwear Olympics.
I believe
the
that
Bikini Olympics is something entirely different.
I call it bikini because it's soft. I will get to the point where I will stop believing in the damn NFL. If they tell me I care about that more than I do about what I see on film. Because what you see on film is 3-4 years sometimes of consistency.
Right.
And then I go run where when I was coming out of college, there was no such thing as a training thing for combine workouts.
Right.
Now you got hundreds of them all over the country that train people specifically for the combine.
You know, it's funny. You talk about the people that prep just essentially for the combine. We see this in sports all the time, right? We see this in the NBA right now where the mass nerds have taken the three-point shot and kind of broken the game because they've made it so efficient that it's no longer just everybody does the same thing, but can you shoot threes better? Here, it's sort of the same deal because there's such specialized training for it. It's hard to know exactly at times, does it matter? You're not taking the raw athlete and just saying, okay, well, what can you do in these things? Yes, and I'm with you, Brian. I don't think teams view that as the end-all, be-all. I think they view it as, okay, I really like this guy. Where's the upside going? How do I predict what's going to happen? Well, let me look at the athletic traits, size, weight, speed, whatever, and look at these things and say, okay, I see where this can go. Or you're like, I don't. The dimension suggests to me this guy might already be maxing out, and therefore, that drops him down below somebody else. So I do wonder at times, do teams have to sort of sift through that? Like, okay, this guy trained exceptionally well to do this random thing. I mean, even like the 40-yard dash, which we all make a big deal about, but like you don't run 40 yards straight in the game.
Yeah, ever.
Yeah. Well, in defense of the combine, I feel like a court-appointed attorney now for a very unpopular client because I know how much you hate the combine. The Bikini Olympics. Not the real name. It's the Under Olympics. Bikini Olympics sounds sexy, but you don't know if a guy's playing against inferior competition in a lesser league, he's going to look really fast.
But he playing against inferior.
He's got to be blowing by a bunch of chumps who are going to be bread truck drivers.
But he looks better. He looks better than running by himself.
But it's not bad to know exactly what the horsepower is. Not bad exactly to see what the top end stuff is in there when needed. That's all I'm saying. Don't make it the Bible, BMitch, but at least get a measure on it.
If you want to see what they can really run, I would say stop worrying about the 40.
How come
they can run more of a 60? Give them a little extra.
Okay, by the way, there's a history behind why it's the 40, and it's because Mike Brown, many years ago, general manager, I believe this is the story, Ben. I don't know if you've heard this. The general manager back in the day of the Browns said, well, 40 is about the length guys run on a kickoff in coverage, so that's why we're going to have them run the 40.
Well, I tell you, that man can add. Because they were kicking from the 25-30, and they run all the way down to the other damn 10.
I'm going to look it up.
That's way more than 40.
I'm going to look it up. This was the story that I read, basically, which was, that was the reason they went with the 40. I know this. If it was me, I would have a long throw competition for quarterbacks. I want to know exactly how many yards can you put it in the air, just so I can see. Guys be probably blowing out their elbows, but still. All right, Last Man Standing. Substack and podcast. Check it out. Check out Ben on Twitter at Ben Standig, Standig. Thank you, my friend.
Fellas, always appreciate it. Talk soon.
Hi, bro.